go ahead and get into it. I'm going to pull up the slides that I have and get started talking about the topic for the day, which is Zero CRM. Is there a future without CRMs? I want to first introduce my fellow panelists. I have Mallory Lee, the VP of RevOps at PhoneBurner, and Vlad Voskresensky, who is the COO and co-founder over at Revenue Grid. And so I told you all that I was going to have one non-work related question for you as we get started. Mallory, I'm going to get started with you. So Vlad, you'll get a little bit of time to think about your answer to this. Mallory, you are going to be a speaker at RevOps AF in New Orleans, which is happening in May. We're going to have 300 to 350 people there. For anybody who's based outside of the US, we're also hosting an EMEA event, which is in Berlin in June. I want to set the stage, Mallory, for you with my question. So imagine that you're actually the opening keynote speaker for RevOps AF. We have 350 people in the audience. We announce your name. You are entering stage left. Everyone stands up. They're all cheering for you, super excited. Go, Mallory, go, Mallory. What would be your walk-up song that you would play as you entered stage left for RevOps AF 2025?
Why is this so hard?
Whatever pops into your head. That's the right answer.
I think I'm going to go with Hand Clap by Fits in the Tantrums.
Did you know my 8-year-old and I actually saw Fits in the Tantrums in concert this past summer at Ravinia so cool. in Chicago? Did you know that Fitz, the lead singer, is like 52 years old?
No.
Yeah, and he's still out there. That's wild. So we got to see him perform that song. I fully support that being your walk-up song for the conference as well. So Vlad, same question to you. As the crowd is roaring, ready to hear your opening keynote at RevOps AF, what would be your walk-up song?
This is a super cool question. And given that I truly believe that we are living in those age changes, I would probably pick the REM Losing My Religion one.
I like that.
We really have to shift a little bit. I truly believe in that.
I love that.
Very on brand.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great tie-in to the topic today. If there's a religion of RevOps, it might be the CRM, maybe. I'm not sure how well that segue worked, but that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be doing this in a couple of different buckets. First, we're going to get into some of the failed promises of CRMs, why they were first introduced and the problems they were meant to solve. And we're going to get into this idea around a zero CRM framework, a couple of different ways that one can interpret that. And then obviously wouldn't be a discussion today if we didn't talk a little bit about AI. So we'll get into AI assistants and how those kind of play into this zero CRM concept, along with some real world use cases as well. And so Vlad, why don't you go ahead and get us started? Talk a little bit about the failed promises of the CRM. And back in the 90s, what were they meant to do? What did they promise us?
Happy to start. I consider myself a CRM industry veteran, dealing with CRM since maybe 2003, 2004. At that time, CRM was already a very shaped industry, if you would. So we all know that CRM technically was kind of invented by Tom Siebel in early 90s, right? When he invented the system itself. And look, his message was that when your sales reps are leaving you, they are taking the data with you, switching their jobs, and keeping their Rolodexes. How about we build a centralized data for you guys, which is a CRM, and that would be a single source of truth for you. You'll keep it. If you do it well, out of it, we can build the automation, which will improve your relationship with your customers, will foster those relationships, and boost your efficiency, sales efficiency, first of all, and everything related. Very cool message, worked very well back then. But in that message, there are a few DNA problems which are still there, and we are feeling those issues today. It's super hard to fix them, super hard to improve, because we literally have to roll back to the DNA of CRM and change its nature. Even by that promise, you can really feel that it was promised as a database. Unfortunately, CRM, to my understanding, stays a database with which we have to learn how to work and force many people around us to work with that static database.
These promises don't sound too bad to me. It's like, hey, let's centralize our data. Let's allow you to foster those customer relationships that you have, and will make your sales team more efficient. So
I'll buy in even today. Like, give me
yeah,
a promise, I'll buy in. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess Mallory, on the operator side, right? Like for you, you've now seen RevOps at a variety of different companies, and maybe go back to the early days of your career. How did
Mhm.
these initial promises line up with some of the things that you saw as a newly minted operator before getting to VP level where you're at today? When you first started, how did these kind of line up with what you actually experienced?
I think that they mostly lined up for quite some time. When it came to the source of truth, where most of the reporting was coming from, we really have relied on the CRMs for a very long time. I think it was not until maybe 3 to 5 years ago that things started to get way more complicated, in the sense that we had all of this product usage data that just didn't fit into the CRM well. And that definition of source of truth really became a little bit more distorted. I was the one walking around the SDR floor saying, oh, if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. That was the mantra. And I think that was very true for a very long time. For some people, that's still absolutely the mantra. There are a lot of businesses today that have a lot of insight into what's happening with their customers. It's in their product database or it's in their data warehouse, and they're not connected anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you hit on a couple of things that are here. I think the main thing I've heard you both say was that the way that companies sell, the way that they go to market, the way that they drive revenue has drastically changed over the last couple of decades. But it doesn't seem like the CRM has. So you now have this kind of disjointed reality where the way that you are executing, you're essentially trying to cram that into the box that you're given, that is the CRM. But Vlad, what does today's reality actually look like for you?
Well, I would actually disagree with you that CRM didn't change. I think CRM changed a lot over those 30 years, and CRM vendors have been trying super hard to uplift the experience, add value. Siebel invented CRM as a tool for managers. It's a managerial cockpit, right? So managers can own the data, see the situation, and manage the situation. This means that someone needs to enter that data into the system. And back to what Mallory said, if it's not in CRM, it doesn't exist. Vendors improved a lot, companies improved a lot. We are super focused on building data lakes one way or the other. Some companies have built a data lake around CRM itself. So it's still, if it's not in CRM, it doesn't exist, but there are a lot of things popping the data into CRM. Other companies have built data lakes outside of CRM only. So we're trying to fix the problem. Instead of trying to fix, maybe we should rethink. I remember talking with one of the engineering leaders at several world-leading CRMs, and he said that every CRM I've built was an island disconnected from the real world. We always rely on people to enter data, which then becomes condition of employment for those guys. And that's a problem. Instead of building the sales tool as a disconnected island from reality, that needs to be fixed. So that's the first problem. Second problem of CRM as such, the biggest problem out of those four, I would say, is, yeah, to me, it's a rare mirror in the car, because we put the data in CRM and then we go back to that data, trying to analyze what's in there, do the post-mortem analysis of the last quarter, etc. It's always analysis looking back. That's why I'm calling it a rare mirror. Instead of front-facing windshield, when CRM systems proactively tells me what to do not to get into the bad situation, maybe even does it for me, etc. So from that standpoint, if I would be very brutal, I would say that CRM is not actionable, and there is no A in Salesforce automation in SFA. We've just lost that A in translation. It's an accounting system, the database of what has happened. And that's today's reality to me. And that's definitely can be fixed, should be revamped.
Yeah. All right. I'll start with one question for you, Mallory. At Phone Burner, I think you've started there recently, right? Over the last few months. One of the first things you've done is evaluate the current CRM and try to, well, I think now have made a decision on what CRM product you're going to go with. How does I don't know, what does the CRM evaluation look like in today's reality if these are some of the things that it's turned into? Because I'm curious how well that lines up with the things that we have on the slides from someone who's just gone through a full-fledged CRM evaluation.
Yeah, it was fascinating because things have just changed so rapidly. And even since I evaluated a couple months ago, things continue to change, right? So I think it's difficult to pin it down at any one time. But the situation with Phone Burner was that we had an older CRM implementation with Salesforce. We had some issues with integrations back and forth from our product to Salesforce to HubSpot. We had some of the duplicate issues and a lot of manual things going on. All of those, we wanted to simplify it, streamline it, figure out how to make it work without so much effort. I think that we definitely could have fixed Salesforce and made it do all the things we wanted it to do to correct those pain points. It would have been a lot of work. We ultimately decided to move away from it because we really wanted something that was going to help us with our PE motion. And that is where I have found CRMs to have the biggest sort of deficiency is in that product data, in the understanding of what is happening in the product over time. Context over time is super difficult because they are meant to be a snapshot. Think back to Glengarry type of days where what's the reason for a CRM? It's for a salesperson to know information about the customer at the moment they need it. So you're dialing the phone. Hey, Jim, how are you? It's been a while. Hey, how's your daughter, Sally? Is she still playing tennis? Those are the things you write down because you want to be a personable salesperson who remembers things. But we've progressed so much since then. I want to know if you logged into the product yesterday, 3 days before that, 5 days before that. How consistently have you been using it? I want to be able to understand how things have evolved for you as a customer over time. And those static databases just can't get it done. So we really wanted to try to get as close as we could to getting some of that awareness built in and getting our key product milestones built into the journey of the customer so we can evaluate those. HubSpot was our best chance to get that going. So that is what we're migrating to. We are still using a CRM, like we are not in a zero CRM state, but that was one of the biggest reasons to take a hard look at what we were doing.
Yeah. And it lines up, I think, Vlad, with some of the data points that you have here. So I guess talk us through these a little bit and tell us how you've seen these manifest themselves with your customers and other folks as well.
That stats is shocking, but it's not surprising, right? Nobody would be surprised by the data. Everybody would agree that, yeah, that feels like a reality. But it's shocking. Think about this. Third of CRM implementations actually fail, meaning that the expectations of the companies trying to roll out or improve CRM are ending with insufficient results, if you would. Yeah, these all challenges are only highlighting the need of a more serious approach. And there's a nice comment in the chat, by the way, that there was a big shift recently from sales management system, which is CRM by DNA, to sales enablement system. I totally agree with this, which means that we don't want to just manage processes and people. We want to enable them to get to better results. And that statistics here shows and tells us that classic understanding of CRM, classic DNA of CRM is not helping us into that enablement journey. That's why when we talk about zero CRM, it does not really mean that CRM should not exist. As a database, it may be part of an ecosystem, but it should be somewhere in the back end. Will we call it CRM or sales enablement or sales automation tool? Does not really matter. What does matter is that it cannot and should not be the only tool we have and the only user experience because it's not addressing the current need. And the current need is, can I get some help in the sales rather than back looking accounting and telling me why we have those results. So yeah, super easy.
And it makes sense based on what both of you said. Mallory gave some very clear examples around the data issues. Not surprisingly, 56% of folks, say that that's a huge time suck. And then the other aspect is basically a third of CRM projects fail within the first couple of years. If you're someone like Mallory, VP of RevOps, looking at, say, maybe overhauling your current Salesforce instance are kind of just, I'll say, starting from scratch with something new. It's like 1 in 3 chances that like that's not going to work or that's gonna fail. Like for this thing that's supposed to deliver so much value, that kind of
Yep.
sucks. Like if you're in baseball and batting above 300, that's solid. If you can hit the ball 1 out of 3 times, you're considered very good. Now we're saying you will fail at a CRM project 1 out of 3 times within the first 2 years. That's not the way these things are supposed to work, especially for something that's essentially supposed to be the center of the universe. I'm going to launch this poll question because I'm curious to get people's perspective. Would you agree that this whole CRM concept has failed? We've got a couple of different answers here that you can select from. No, we just don't know how to use it the right way. Yes, because the data's always inaccurate. Yes, because it's too static and not actionable enough. Or yes, because it functions more like an accounting system rather than a sales tool. Vlad, you first, and then Mallory. What do you think? What do you think the top answer will be?
I think the top answer to me would be it's not a proper sales tool.
Okay.
And back to the statistics of failed CRM, my personal take is that whatever we're doing with CRM automation, we as RevOps and vendors bringing this tools and experience to people, we force the people to change the way they work. We force people to follow the processes we are trying to build, force them to enter data here and there, make sure that required field is in there. If this then that triggered, make sure that it worked. Instead of be where people are and enable how they get things done. Let's be clear, people are not getting things done in CRM. Sales are getting things done, meeting people, being on the phone, being in the field. This is where sales is happening. And then they go back to CRM to reflect. So instead of changing people, we should change the software. That's why I
Yeah.
think version CRM towards more a sales tool is the answer here. That's my choice. That's my pick.
What about you, Mallory?
I don't think that the concept of having data available to us is wrong. We know we need the data. We know we need a source of truth. I think it's just how do you get it and how do you use it? Like Vlad said, how do you make it actionable?
Yeah. Sharing the results now. Mallory, based on what you said initially, I was going to assume you'd pick the third one, which is it's too static and not actionable enough.
Mhm.
I think that's similar to the last answer we had up here about it functioning more like an accounting system rather than a sales tool. Because to me, like if you're in sales, you want to action, you want to execute, right? But if you're an accountant or finance, or Amy in the audience gave a good example about finance taking over the CRM and treating it like a profit and loss income statement. And so then you wind
Mhm.
up with what Vlad said of, hey, this is an accounting system, right? Let me ask you both the question here on the screen. If we want to move away from CRMs being this accounting tool and the static place where data lives, can they actually start helping sales teams? Vlad, let's start with you on that question. What would you say to that?
Yes, I'm sure. I believe that a new CRM or something which is not even a CRM, call it sales tool, can be helping sales team by taking the part of their jobs and do it automatically. We'll talk about that in more details, but I do believe that the typical day of any salesperson, would it be a sales rep or sales manager, consists of many, many, many small, routinely repeatable tasks, one way or the other. And people are losing a lot of time and productivity repeating those tasks. Think about pipeline meetings. Every week or bi-weekly for managers to interrogate sales reps, tell me exactly what's going on, so then we can make some decisions. Maybe I can coach you, maybe we can improve the situation. That interrogation part could be automated and could be gone, leaving a lot of free time for people to start focusing on what do we do rather than what's going on type of things. So I truly believe that sales tool can start helping in the sales process in a couple of steps. First, take off the routinely repeatable tasks. Don't take time for that. Second, if those routinely repeatable tasks are clear enough how to execute on those, maybe completely automated, maybe asking my permission, telling me, I'm going to do this. Are you agree? Okay with it? Do you agree with this or not? Are you okay with that? Yes, do it. So then we, human being, will be having more time to do the very intelligent things which technology cannot, and maybe we'll never able to. And that's how the tool will help me to be more productive. Either I'm a manager or sales rep.
And what about you, Mallory? How would you answer this question of can CRMs, hopefully the one that you're currently in the process of migrating to, how can they actually help your sales team?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a good challenge to me as someone who's designing this stuff right now. Something that Vlad said stood out to me. You go to your biweekly forecast call or your cross-functional pipeline meeting. I've always called it a pipeline council. Everybody's in the room and you're looking at the list, you're looking at the forecast, and there's like half of the room knows that one of the deals on the slide is dead, gone. The other half of the room doesn't know yet. So you're having this like silly performative conversation about pipeline when something has gone south in a deal. No one's ready to go and mark it as closed lost yet. There's this emotional moment where you can't let it go. Some people know and some people don't. If you think about the time wasted, where half of the room doesn't know what's going on, you're sad about losing a deal, instead of just capturing the data, updating the system, figuring out how to move forward, like Vlad said, what are we going to do? I think systems that can be as responsive as possible to help us move faster. Yes, take away tedious tasks, take away some of the things that bug us or annoy us. That's important. But I think there's a coaching element that is also so vital to try to get into the CRM, which is, hey, Mr. Salesperson, you're single threaded on this deal. You need to find more contacts to talk to. Or, hey, Mr. Salesperson, your top deal is in a trial and they haven't logged in a week. You should probably reach out and figure out what's going on. One of my favorite simple examples is to give people just one little field that says reason to call. Make it very easy for people to understand. Hey, my name is Mallory calling from Phone Burner. Reason for my call is that I see you started a trial with us and you're in this industry. Here's why I wanted to follow up with you and help you out today. Giving people access to what they need as quickly as possible and helping them along the way. I think those things are possible. It's just a question of how do we make that real time? How do we give it the right context? How do we build the foundation to make those things really helpful?
Yeah. And talking about forecasting, we have within our CRM, we have deals, and those deals have stages and close dates. But then we look at those and we're like, oh, you know what? Can't trust what's there. So we need a separate forecasting process and tool with, commit and all these other stages. Now, what we're talking about here is you can't trust that either. I was reminded of, we just went through in the US, this whole TikTok thing is going to be banned because it's being monitored by the Chinese state. And then all of a sudden, like DeepSeek comes out. And I'm just like, if we were not okay with the TikTok thing, like, why are we now going to give a AI company sponsored by the Chinese government all of our data? But forecasting to me is the same thing. We have deals, close dates, all of the data points we need for those forecasting calls and conversations. You all just gave some great examples of that. Why do we keep going down this path of, oh no, just got to tweak this one thing on all these other mistakes or things we've done? It seems a little foolish to me, but maybe I'm alone in my elder millennial chair right now. Okay, well, at least Mallory supports me. Good. So, Vlad, you talked a little bit about the sales process being super complex and fragmented, and some of those jobs that can be done by technology, right? So that humans can focus on the right thing. So, let's move on to getting into some of the fixes. So, we've set the stage now. We've talked a lot about the problems that we're experiencing with the CRM. So, how can we fix those? How can we avoid doing the things I was complaining about, like piling on more poor decisions? What are the things we should actually do?
Yeah, Arvind in our chat said that he believes the most important word in CRM is relationship, and hard to disagree. Now, let's think about what CRM are actually doing to help us build those relationships. They're helping us to have a record of those relationships, but they're not present where those relationships are being built or fostered. It's just a Rolodex, but not static like it used to be. Now it's a IT-enabled Rolodex. A modern sales tool should be where people are. Sales guys are getting things done, talking with people. I always say that our real opportunities are not the objects in CRM, but meetings in our calendar. When I meet someone, I have an opportunity to move the deal forward or maybe even close one, right? So the tool, which is a tool of the future, should be where people are. Should it be an email, chats, phone calls, something else new tomorrow? That tool should be there, whatever that would be. And it should be a silent listener, maybe proactive listener, but at least a silent listener. So slide says automate data entry. I wouldn't say even automate data entry. That should be smart enough to understand what people are talking about, get the knowledge out of it, get the facts out of it, and track it somewhere. Let's say in a CRM. Be where people are conversating, understand what they're conversating about, and put that knowledge into the brain. Should it be a database, CRM, or maybe unstructured data, which AI is super cool with, or maybe something else? That's step number one, because we all know garbage in, garbage out. That would fix the data entry problem in several aspects, by the way. And I truly believe that this is the backbone of any new system. It would fix the problem of manual data entry, which everybody hates, but it would also fix the problem of data is not there because people have no time to enter. They will enter it tomorrow or maybe next week, but the data is not there when it's needed. And also it fixes the problem of a perverted data, because when I'm retelling to CRM what my call with Matt about, that's not someone who gets the data from the raw source. Second, we've talked about those many tasks which salespeople are doing. Some of them could be executed automatically. Matt, back to your problem, validation of a pipeline, forecasting. We do have status of something in CRM, our pipeline. Nobody trusts that status. We need forecasting, we need managerial forecast, etc. And we are repeating that process every week or bi-weekly or whenever the pipeline are happening. Can we automate that? Could that be a technology which is looking at what's going on with opportunities, what conversations we are having, what was our history back then with similar ops, similar customers, and make cleansing of a pipeline, telling that part of your pipeline is complete bullshit. You're never going to close it. The rest you will, but not in the dates you are predicted, not in amounts you are predicted. And it would give you some help execute that task for you, execute the cleansing of a pipeline for you. I truly believe there are many of those. So the system of the future should be focusing on those small or maybe bigger jobs to make people more productive. Act as a real assistant, a real human-like assistant with whom I conversate. My perfect world would be a super smart assistant from whom I can ask, oh, tell me my pipeline for next quarter. This is your pipeline. Here's your printed report. Okay, what's going on with that account? And maybe in small chat, I'll get the update. This is our update with this account. I may ask more solid questions. What do we do to pump our pipeline better? What are the best lead sources? What should we focus on? I'll get some kind of intelligent response. I may have people working for me doing that work, but maybe system can do that and act as a human-like assistant, which is smart enough, contextual enough, understand what am I asking, and tuning for my questions going forward. So that's the dream, if you would. That's the vision, what the future of CRM should be.
Yeah. My next question is for you, Mallory. I did a podcast recording with someone recently. They were in a similar boat as you, where they had just come into this private equity backed company that had just acquired 4 companies and were merging everything into one. She had to come in and do an audit of all the things they had and then figure out what else they needed. But we talked a lot about CRM, and before we were talking about marketing automation, but we talked a lot about properties that exist on objects that we're all very familiar with, and how when you start, you should start with those things and make sure that you're focused on the action or the execution that you're going to take from the data that you're collecting. So we're talking about data cleansing. Let's use win-loss reasons as an example. I'm guessing all of us on this call have win-loss reasons on our deal object within our CRM. Hopefully, we're requiring that those things get completed when a deal gets closed. We talked a lot about how she came in and made the reasons hyper-focused on our company and the things we will take action on based on the data. For example, the loss reasons are not things like budget, timeline, not a fit, because she's like, what am I going to do with that? Can I put them into a pie chart and report out on them? Sure. She's like, but what I did is I made them like hyper focused on us, right? She was like, one of the loss reasons is like combined contract, right? Because as I mentioned, 4 different products, right? They were trying to consolidate them all into one. She gave some win reasons on expansion opportunities, where one of their win reasons is that it was sourced from a QBR call. Another one is that it was sourced by an analyst because she and her team can take action on all of those things. So I think even just those preconceived notions that we all have on things that our CRM is doing today or data that we might be collecting, we should start from the action or what we would do to execute on them. I guess I'm curious how that lines up, Mallory, with the stuff that you're currently going through with your CRM evaluation and now your CRM migration, and also how that lines up with the things that Vlad just mentioned of what the CRM should truly be.
I love that approach of making sure that you're going to take action on the data that you're asking people for. Having rows and rows of information just for the sake of it, no one has patience for that anymore. At Phone Burner, we've got a lot going on. We get tons of calls. We used to have hundreds of very specific phone numbers geared toward lead source attribution. So if you called us from a certain phone number, that meant that you saw a certain ad. And so as we're looking at overhauling this system, we had to ask ourselves, do we really want to keep using this many phone numbers for attribution purposes? And I said, raise your hand if any of you have looked at the lead source attribution on these phone calls. And nobody had. And so we said, let's not go to that extent. We have to only ask for things that we're going to use. We have to only spend our valuable time on questions that are going to help us improve the business. And sales reps will take you way more seriously if they know that you're only asking for stuff that you really need and that you're really going to use to help better their performance or help inform them of how to get something done better. That's something that I've tried to always do. Give the example to the sales team. Hey, I have found in situations where you've got your, let's say, tech evaluation as part of your sales process. If you have your tech evaluation done and you've recorded these certain data points ahead of sending a proposal, you have a 6 times better chance of winning. So, hey, Mr. Salesperson, I'm going to start requiring this of you. And here's why, because it's going to help you win at such a better clip. People start to resonate with that. They say, okay, I see why. I trust Mallory that she actually cares that I'm going to do this. I'm not just filling out data for the sake of it. I think the more that we can progress toward accepting getting this data coming in automatically and getting it collected in the background as quickly as possible, and then finding a way to serve it up to people as they're in their sales process, the more that we're going to be able to actually gain efficiency from the data. We need to know what we're going to do with it, but we also need to get those things into practice as quickly as we can.
Yeah. So Vlad, I'm curious how that might align or not align with the approach you are taking at Revenue Grid, because you're building a software product that solves a lot of the problems we're talking about today. You're also probably in a position where I'm guessing your board, investors, probably a lot of other people are asking about AI. How are you incorporating AI into your product? You can't go to LinkedIn without people talking about how AI is going to kill X, right? Like this job is going to go away because it's going to get taken over by robots. For someone who's actually building a software product successfully, how are you approaching AI, building that into the Revenue Grid product? And why do you think, whether it's CRMs or other technology right outside of the one that you're building, why do you think that's the right approach?
Sure. First of all, I should underline that I'm a big believer in AI, but we should get sober from all the buzz which is going around AI right now, because everybody are talking about AI, everybody are exaggerating what AI can really do, etc., etc. Gen AI and AI in general can do a lot. We should focus on the values AI can bring to the sales process, pick only those, focus on those, and stay calm. Many things could be done even without involvement of an AI, right? Say data collection into the system. Many of that data collection could be done without an AI, and AI can help a lot to attribute right data to right objects, things like this. To our view at Revenue Grid, there are a few things where AI could be a super nice spice to the dish, if you would, right? And these 4 bullets, it's where exactly AI can greatly help. So first of all, it can help us to conversate with our data. Let's go back to your example, Matt, prediction or forecasting, right? So we have a forecast, we doubt, we go and talk to people, etc. Imagine there is a tool which slice and dice and say, no, it's not your best case, it's actually commit, or maybe not commit, but best case. You want to ask why. That's your natural desire. You would ask your people why you think this way. If we only have data in CRM, to be able to answer a question, you either need to call the rep and ask him or dig through every single lines or rows and rows and rows of data, which Mallory have mentioned. AI can help with this and can kind of process the data and have a meaningful conversation with you, explaining why this or that conclusion was done, why this or that suggestion was proposed, based on what facts, maybe even based on artifacts in our history. So that's a big help. And since it can do this, it may start acting proactively, proposing you things and maybe even doing those things. That's how it gets manual work done. Now, important part is coachability of models, AI models. Again, back to what Mallory just said, we have some things which, if they are done, they're boosting the chance to close the deal. And we want to coach our other sales reps keep doing those. Yes, that's what we do today. But if some of those steps are automatable, if some of those steps are routinely repeatable, and we can understand how to automate those, would that be easier instead of coaching people, hoping that they will change their habits, knowing that we would need to tell them 2 times, 3 times until they really get and start doing that? Wouldn't that be easier to coach model just one time? Because AI would never be offended. We'll get it from first prompt, if you would. And if you prompt totally opposite tomorrow, it will still react on that with no problems. I mean, with the changes, but no problems. So AI is very nice coachable comparing to human beings. It's hard to coach us. We're all people. We have our habits. AI doesn't. But it's prompt driven. These are the cool parts of AI, which I think we have to rely on when we add AI into the new tool. It should be driven by AI, just like with any other automation. Should not be AI centric. AI, it's a big help. Let's don't do a cargo cult out of AI. That's my message.
Yeah. So Mallory, how are you as an operator looking at deploying and leveraging AI within your RevOps org? Or does it kind of line up with this whole idea of, hey, it's a partner, it's a co-pilot, it's coming along for the ride with my team, or is it different?
I'm still pretty firmly in the co-pilot camp. There are a lot of opportunities with our migration. It's a cool time to start something over because you get to put the AI in at the beginning. It's been a fun experience in that way. The low-hanging fruit that everyone should be taking advantage of is call recording, transcript, dissection and understanding, automating some updates of certain pieces of data from what you're able to see in communications without making the sales rep do that. Certainly, that's one of our goals as we get into moving things into HubSpot, getting those sentiments, kind of understood the best that you can, but taking the burden off of the rep to type in their notes and recap a call. I think the customers appreciate the call recaps too. There's a lot we can do with the recordings that are out there today. The other thing I'm really interested in is getting as much intel as we can about the person in that free trial up front, understanding who they are, what their pain points might be, well ahead of that first phone call we make to them, so we can be as informed as possible on the first call. So that's going to involve going out and researching what's happening at that business, why they might want to look at phone burner, suggesting some email copy that we might use to reach out to them. Those are some of the things that we're working on right now, but I still perceive it to be kind of like a helper versus taking the driver's seat.
Yeah, I like that. I think for everyone here, look at those things you might be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that are consistent and involve you clicking between applications or screens. Those are really good problems where you can potentially apply AI, whether it's manual account research before phone calls, whether it's like even helping up, we were talking about data cleansing before, right? Like taking unstructured data and turning it into something structured, right? Like those are all great use cases. Or, I mean, we talked a little bit about Clay. You can also do some fun stuff. For example, I create AI generated custom songs for new sponsors that we have for RevOps AF the conference. Like ChatGPT comes up with some lyrics, got an API to Sono that creates this custom song. So you can do fun stuff like that in minutes, right? So lots of possibilities there. Next, we got about 10 minutes left. I want to talk a little bit now that we've gotten through kind of problems, solutions, talk about like, okay, do we switch? Should we just say depart CRM? We'll see you later. And I'm going to launch this poll to ask the question of whether or not folks agree that this kind of zero CRM path or world is an unavoidable future. But Vlad, what do you think? Switch or evolve? Or is there some secret option number 3 here?
I doubt there is secret option number 3. And I also wish the switch overnight would be possible. I think it's only possible for those guys who do not yet rolled out CRM and trying to roll out. They could rely on new principles. But we all invested a lot in CRM, both funds and time, etc. So I do believe in evolution. In fact, it could be a fast evolution, could be a step by step. My personal response, I do believe in from CRM to zero touch CRM and from zero touch CRM to zero CRM concept. When I say zero CRM, it means that I would just not mind what plays the role of my CRM. It would be a database on the back end, but the interface and functionality of it would be the most important for me. I often use this analogy with the cars. Back then, if I would need to drive my car for a long journey, I would need to have leather gloves, understand how engine works, every single detail of it, because no doubts at some time I would need to stop on the road, go under the hood and fix it. Today, I don't care, right? I don't care if it's a gas or diesel or hybrid or electric, only maybe how do I fill it out? How do I refill it? It just takes me from place to place. So CRM to me, it's an engine which should be under the hood and not directly touched. We should be drivers of our cars, enjoying the ride rather than dealing with the engine. So yeah. And that pyramid actually highlights our view and our understanding how to get to the zero CRM experience, if you would. I'll very briefly walk through this logic. So yeah, we're talking that CRM is lacking data, so we need to do automated data capture. We need to stop being in isolated islands, but connected to where people are. Now, even if the automated data capture is in place and we're all trying to build a data lake, that's still not enough. Because it doesn't really matter where the data is. Sits an email in inbox of our account execs, or being an activity in my Salesforce or Zeeble or SAP CRM. As a user of all the data, as this guy who needs this, I would need to reread either inbox or activities. No value. The value is that when system starts to convert data lakes into the facts lake or knowledge lake, if those facts and knowledge are extracted and being told to me as a summary, as details, as a conversational experience, somehow, facts out of conversations, out of the data. That layer actually exists in the industry for a long time. We have Clary, Revenue Grid, other vendors doing revenue intelligence. The challenge with revenue intelligence is that it's an expensive consultancy for you. That's the tool which will come and highlight to you your problems, maybe suggest some steps, but it would never do it for you automatically. You are responsible for doing this automatically, taking smart insights from revenue intelligence tools present on the market today. Then the peak of it, and this is where the zero CRM concept starts to me, it's when we have some tools, call it agents, call it assistants, call it AI-driven agents, a tool or set of tools which are doing actual work for me, would it be a small task or larger tasks. And the more those tools we have, the more zero CRM experience you'll start to experience.
Mallory, same question for you. And then I've got one more question for both of you. Where do you see the future heading?
Yeah, currently switching to a CRM that can handle PLG better. I think there's a future where the CRM is just invisible and it's just a data warehouse. Like Vlad said, it's the invisible engine of the car. I don't know if it'll be called CRM by that time or not, but I think the category is huge. It's profitable. It's hard to imagine it actually fully going away. I think we're all just going to be adapting to what we need in the future. And that is a way to have this awareness, have this context, but still be able to go and do our work and not have to worry about it.
Yeah. And so here is my question for both of you, which someone posed in the audience. We've been talking a lot about CRMs. We've been talking a lot about AI. Vlad, you showed us this kind of nice grid about moving up this maturity curve or pyramid. As people consider all of the technology options available today and where the CRM will fit into that, is it best to look for the most powerful CRM that you can possibly get with embedded AI and all the things, right? The platform approach, or should you view the CRM as more this data warehouse or this place that needs a separate orchestration layer? You need to layer stuff on top of it in order to execute on your revenue engine the right way. What would your answer to that be, Vlad?
Second, but with a very important disclaimer. No, we are not killing the CRM overnight. We still should treat this as a valuable asset we have invested into, and we have data in there, we have process automations around that, etc. We need to add that layer of productivity boosters or enablement tools. We should stop trying to add that layer as a lipstick on a pig type of a concept, thinking CRM. We should start doing that layer on top of it. Stop thinking CRM, but thinking people. How people are doing things. What are the processes they would like to follow? What would be a simplification of life for them rather than, oh, my CRM has that structure and that custom record and that requirement. How do I train my people to my playbooks? So when we add productivity tool, instead of trying to understand what people are doing so that I can reflect properly in CRM, how do I boost my productivity of my people? And then I'll deal with CRM, maybe even redoing CRM, roll up my sleeves and become a real RevOps and do the customization changes, etc. So now CRM better reflects the reality, if you would. So the answer is clearly through improving CRM, but not in a lipstick on a pig type of a concept, but keep it as a database, and if it needs to be enriched with unstructured data, with AI tools, with whatever you may imagine, be brave to do that. Because at the end, it's all about productivity of people, not about the success of CRM I've bought. That's it.
Yeah, I like that. And I agree. I think a lot of people look at, well, my CRM is set up this way, or these are my restrictions because of my technology. So then we as humans need to go out and execute things a certain way. It should certainly be the other way around. And so what would your answer to that be, Mallory? CRM as like the thing, or AI layered on top of the CRM is the way to go?
AI layered on top of CRM is what most people are looking for. I think it's just a question of how. And I think we really need to ask ourselves where we ask our reps to spend their time. Which screen do we want them to stare at? Because we can't ask them to stare at 14 different screens all day. All the vendors are competing for eyeballs. Where do you want the eyeballs to be looking? That's the question I think a lot of us need to ask. And that's going to vary from company to company. For some people, it's Clary. For some people, it is HubSpot. But getting that simplified and then trying to understand how to get the data in and out of where it needs to go, I think that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I like that. And so with that, I know we're a little over time. So we went all the way from REM and Bad Religion to Fits and the Tantrums to now Zero-CRM, AI, all the things. Big shout out to Mallory and Vlad for dropping some knowledge on us today. Thank you to everybody in the audience who tuned in.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Later, y'all.